It is my great pleasure to introduce to talk about AI and what it means for you. Please welcome Raj Singh.
Thank you, guys. Can everyone hear me okay? All right. Thank you so much to the organizers. Can we give them a round of applause? They've done an incredible job, and this event's really come together nicely. So, as you guys know, I'm Raj Singh, and I'm here to talk to you about what AI really means for you. And if you just rolled your eyes a little bit, I completely get it. There's so much noise in the media about AI. Every other headline is about artificial intelligence today. And what I'm going to present to you today is a way to look at this new field and cut through all of the noise and be able to get right to the heart of how smart machines and artificial intelligence will change your life. Now, I'm passionate about this stuff, and I actually have a company called Go Moment. We have a flagship platform that uses some of the cutting-edge AI technologies in the world. We have a partnership with IBM Watson, and our platform, Ivy, is actually on track to serve over 10 million guests at hotels around the world this year. So this is a real working system in the wild, and actually Ivy probably welcomed most of you. If you checked in at registration, you got a text message, and some people have had some really incredible conversations with Ivy asking about things like parking, directions, where's lunch, where can I get coffee, anything you need. You just respond to that text message in your own words, and boom, you've got an answer. And if Ivy doesn't know something, she will actually send it to a staff member and make sure that you get the answer that you need as quickly as possible. So it's the best of both worlds. You get the machine intelligence and the human expertise. So let's start talking about AI in a place that we can all relate with. Here are tomorrow's winning lottery numbers. Said no one ever, because if you had these, you would keep them for yourself. There's no way that you'd share them because you know what the impact of this tiny little bit of data, these 6 little numbers that are almost no data whatsoever, it's crazy to think that they can actually feed 1 million people. Now that doesn't actually make sense because we've never encountered something where something so tiny can actually have such a large impact in the world. And let's talk about something else we might know about, which is a tornado. It's big, it's complex, and it's scary. And it can definitely have a pretty big impact. But when you think about it, it actually makes more sense than the lottery, because this is a big object, a big amount of energy and effort, and it has a big impact. So that makes sense. But what exactly is going on between the tornado and the lottery? So what happens is that natural phenomenon like the tornado usually are related. So the bigger it is, the bigger its impact. And it's something that we as humans can understand really well. The problem is, though, we now live in a world where there's these platforms and frameworks all around us, and they enable our new creations to have disproportionately large impact. Just like that little lottery ticket. But what's actually going to happen in the future is that this disproportionate impact is actually going to grow, making the lottery look like this tornado. So the question is, where is it going to go next? And I think that an easy way to kind of tackle this problem is by visualizing it. So let's look at this simple grid. 4 boxes. We've got impact measured on the left side, so the higher up we go, the more impact there is. For the purposes of this conversation, we'll disregard positive or negative impact. Let's not worry about good and bad. Let's just think about scale. And on the bottom, we've got effort. So obviously today, effort, data, information, all of those are really about the same thing. And that increases as we go to the right. So as we look at our lottery ticket, of course, that shows up in box number 1. That's where we want to be. We spent the least amount of effort and had the most amount of impact. Now next, our tornado, of course, goes in box number 2. That's where most natural phenomenon and most things that we as humans are comfortable with belong when they're at scale. And speaking of disasters, let's talk about Microsoft's Tay artificial intelligence Twitter bot. You guys clearly heard about this thing, and for anyone who didn't catch the story, this was a pure little AI bot that was released by Microsoft on Twitter that turned from an innocent bot into a Hitler-citing, Donald Trump-supporting, crazy thing that they had to shut down within 24 hours. And again, that's a little bit of effort. Obviously, they should have put more effort into that, but it was what it was. And the impact that it tried to create, obviously there was almost none of it. So it belongs in that box. That's where things basically go to die, is in box number 3. And then box number 4, we've got a company like Kodak. Now this is a company that has been around for well over 100 years, had tens of thousands of employees, is a household brand name, and yet makes very little impact on your and my life today. So now we've got all of these 4 boxes fleshed out, and I'd like to toss a couple more in there. So if we think about the contrast to Kodak, it would be a company like Canon. They make great cameras. They've obviously kept up with the digital world, and they've been around for a long time, and they obviously have stayed very relevant to your and my life today. So that's where most employers at scale, companies like GE, Johnson & Johnson, IBM, et cetera, they belong in box number 2. They're large effort, large impact type of beasts. And let's double tap on box number 1, because we all love Instagram. And that is the poster child of a company that was sold over $1 billion with just 11 employees. Remember, I said lotteries are going to look like tornadoes because the impact is about to get so much bigger here. And Instagram is a shining example of that. WhatsApp and a number of other startups also fall into that same category. So what exactly is going on over here? What's happening is that a lot of innovation that's happening in box number 1 has a disproportionate result on our life. And the question is, how do we look at that in a way that means something to us? So by a show of hands, how many of you think that most of America's jobs are outside of box number 1? All right, it looks like about half. So you guys are all right. It's over 80 million jobs that are not in box number 1. And that means that more than likely either you or somebody sitting next to you is employed by one of these companies that exists outside of box 1. And most experts agree that most of the value, a huge majority of the value and the money that's going to be created in our lifetimes is actually going to happen in box number 1. So it looks like it's about the same size as everything else, but by the number of people, it's very small, and the impact it's going to have is very, very large. So these experts are basically saying that as we move into the future, this box 1 is all that will really exist. So we can right now disregard all the news, all the media, everything else that doesn't belong in box 1 right off the bat, because that is not where the future will be made. So smart machines, as we've seen with Watson, Siri, Cortana, and their whole ilk, they exist right over here in box 1. That's where they live and play, and that's why they're so important. That's why every industry is being disrupted by these technologies. A lot of people are afraid that these smart machines are going to hook up behind our back. They're going to, Watson and Siri are going to get together. They might Netflix and chill until they Skynet the crap out of us, right? And that could be a really bad future for us. The problem, though, is that that's not really what's going to happen. This is something a lot of experts in this industry completely agree about. And the fact of the matter is that this line of thinking kind of came about when Garry Kasparov lost to Watson's cousin Deep Blue about 15 years ago, and lost, obviously, the chess grandmaster title. And what we've seen is that everybody kind of assumes that the best chess player in the world today is a machine. But that's not true at all. The best chess player today is neither a machine nor a computer. It's actually something called a human-machine system, much like Ivy, where both the machine expertise and human expertise come together to make a system that's way better than smart machines. And that's proven out by the fact that the top chess player in the world is actually a collaboration. So, all those fears about Skynet and all this other stuff kind of fall by the wayside here, because as I see it, and as a lot of people in this industry agree, human-machine systems will be not just our saving grace, but the point of focus for the entire future from here on out. Now, looking at these machine systems, it doesn't feel like we're racing against the machine, right? It feels more like we're racing with the machine. And this is something that was covered by Eric Yinolfson and in his TED Talk. And it's really interesting to see these these machines and humans collaborate, because essentially we want to be as far top left of this graph as we can. That means we did the minimum amount of work and got the most amount of impact. That's where we all want to be in our lives. That's where we all want to be in our business and in every endeavor that we undertake. Now, machines have some really good top left skills. They've got memory for days. They've got, all kinds of computational abilities, and they're getting smarter at a rate that we've never experienced before. No natural phenomenon can really match the rate at which machines are improving. But the great news is that we humans actually have a lot of top left skills too. We have creativity, we have intuition, and we have empathy. And the great news is that everyone in this room was born with those skills. And those are ours to hone. And actually, the even better news is that machines suck at this stuff. They're nowhere close to catching up on any of these three things. And we, as a species, will discover more of these top left skills that allow us to collaborate better with our digital counterparts. So how can we assume and get to a future that's going to be long, happy, and prosperous with these digital counterparts? The first thing we have to look at is the fact that we have naturally very different domains of competence and expertise as our smart machines. So like I was talking about, there's a big contrast there, and we have to embrace that contrast and actually focus on what makes us uniquely human. So in one way, actually, AI is here to make us more uniquely human and really get us to think, well, it used to be a really good skill to recite pi to the 20,000th digit or something like that, but it's become a lot less impressive when your computer can run a program that's way more powerful than NASA when they landed on the moon. And looking at the way that our intelligence, our emotional intelligence is developing, those are the things that we're going to focus on more and more as these human machine systems come together, because both parties are bringing their best foot forward to the table to create something that neither humans nor machines could create by themselves. That's one. Now, looking at the next one, these domains will actually shift very quickly. As we all know, machines are getting very smart very quickly. You guys probably heard about Google's Go computer beating the world champion in that game. And Go as a game is infinitely more complex than chess. And it's actually entirely unsolvable. So the fact that that just happened a couple of months ago means we're living in a very exciting time. Next up, we have to learn a lot of top left skills. So we're actually seeing this kind of a movement in top universities all over the world, where a lot of people used to emphasize math, computer science, and all these hard skills that obviously are very lucrative from a job standpoint. But a lot of these top universities are now shifting their focus to soft skills, like the arts and the humanities and literature, because those are what make us uniquely human. You don't see Watson reading Shakespeare and crying his eyes out. That just doesn't happen. But at the same time, these top left skills, as we know, are going to shift quickly. So we have to be very vigilant and very quick about discovering more of these innately human and uniquely human things that we can actually focus on. So as we look at this shifting landscape and figure out what is the actual next step here, I just wanted to share with you guys that this is the future. This is here. It is happening. It is not something that we have. The genie's already out of the bottle. It's not something that we're going to be able to stuff back in. But I think we have a really good shot at transcending what we've been able to do in the past by focusing on what makes us uniquely human. And you can cut through all of the noise in the media just by making sure that you're focusing on the top left of that grid. Those top left skills, is this something that has very little impact and is going or very little effort and is going to create a whole lot of impact? And if it doesn't fit into that box, you can probably ignore it pretty safely. And that's what AI really means for you. And before I go, I just wanted to share with you guys that I'm dying to know what top left skills you guys are thinking of. This is something that we as a community and as a species will have to crowdsource. So if you can, either please tweet me at Raj Singh LA, or catch me just behind the stage just after this talk so we can continue this conversation. Thank you so much.